Coming up on Network Africa. More than 40 people killed in the Democratic Republic of Congo attack that's been linked to the Islamic State. Sudan's founding alliance announces formation of a rival transitional peace government led by the Rapid Support Forces commander Hamdan Dagalo. Plus, Cameroon's Electoral Commission rules out opposition leader Maurice Kamto's presidential candidacy ahead of October elections. Hello and welcome to the program today. I'm Layo Olarinde. Let's begin this week with stories and happenings that made headlines over the weekend.
On Saturday, the Cameroon Electoral Commission, ELECAM, announced decision to remove opposition leader Maurice Kamto from the list of the approved presidential candidates during a meeting in Yaoundé. Ahead of the upcoming presidential elections, only 13 of 83 registered candidates, including current President Paul Biya, who is seen as Biya's main rival, was explained by the nomination of two other candidates from the African Movement for New Independence and Democracy, MANIDEM. The MANIDEM slammed the ELECAM's move as blatant fraud, pledging to file an appeal to the Constitutional Council. Still on Saturday, Central African Republic President Faustin Touadera made a widely expected announcement that he will run for a third term in the December election. The car leader made this known during a congress held by the United Hearts Movement, MCU, in Bangui. He said he agreed to run for the third time in response to the multiple calls from the Central African people, from east to west, north to south, from the diaspora who have witnessed his achievements and in line with the wishes of the United Heart Movement to stand as a candidate in the December 2025 presidential election. Meanwhile, the MCU Party National Secretary, LAX St. Clair, claimed that the call for Mr. Touadera to run for a third term had come as a surprise to the leader. Still on Saturday, hundreds of protesters marched through the streets of Luanda demanding the government reverse its recent decision to raise fuel and public transport prices. Alongside price-related concerns, demonstrators also called for the release of activist Osvaldo Kaholo, who was arrested on charges of rebellion, incitement, and public apology for crime. However, taxi operators have announced a 3-day strike starting from today and urged the public to stay home. In the meantime, the government has not indicated any intention to reverse the hikes.
So our main stories for today: more than 40 people have been killed in an attack by an Islamic State affiliate in the northeastern Democratic Republic of Congo. The United Nations and the military says most of them were worshippers taking part in a night program at a church in the town of Komanda when they were attacked by Allied Democratic Forces ADF fighters. According to the UN peacekeeping mission, MONUSCO, 9 of those killed were children, and nearby shops and businesses were looted and set on fire. The ADF emerged in Uganda in the 1990s, accusing the government there of persecuting Muslims, but is now based over the border in DR Congo, where it regularly attacks civilians of all religions, as well as in Uganda. It has since become part of the Islamic State's Central African province, which also includes a group in Mozambique. As conflict rages on across parts of Sudan, pockets of relative safety have emerged in the past 4 months, spurring more than 1 million internally displaced persons to make their way home. This is according to the International Organization for Migration, who says a further 320,000 cross-border refugees have come back to Sudan since last year, mainly from Egypt and South Sudan, and to assess the current situation before deciding to return to their country country for good.
The majority of returns has been to Al Jazeera, almost 71%, and then 13% to Sennar, and so far 8% to Khartoum. As colleagues mentioned, we expect about 2.1 million to return to Khartoum by the end of this year, but this will depend on many factors, especially the security situation and the ability to restore services in a timely manner. An old man approached during our visit to say, our needs are simple. What we're talking about is food, water, healthcare, and education, since this is the future of our children, and we really need to invest in this future.
There are essential services like the restoration of electricity, the restoration of water, and the repair, rehabilitation of health facility. Just to give you an idea, there is about 1,700 wells that need to be rehabilitated, and they need power. And solarization here is a great solution. There are at least 6 hospitals that require urgent rehabilitation and repair, and a number of primary health centers. There are hundreds of thousands, if not more, of unexploded ordnance in the city. So the local Mine Action Authority, with support of the UN Mine Action Services, which have started the decontamination. And even in our own office, we found literally hundreds of UXO and that have now started to be cleared.
As we speak about places of relative safety inside Sudan, there are places where we still have active conflict in the Darfurs, in the Kordofans. In the Darfurs, they keep producing refugees, over 800,000. The regional refugee response plan is only funded at 17%. So in a nutshell, need to support people who can return to areas where we have relative safety, and people are asking us for the support. Authorities we meet, government officials that we meet, returnees that we meet, this is what they are asking. People who are in refuge still there need greater support from our side. And overall, I can't agree more with Otman. We need peace, we need peace, we need peace so that this brutal conflict will end.
Nigeria's media landscape is set to receive more global attention following American cable news company Newsmax's fact-finding mission to the country. Speaking to Channels Television, Newsmax representative Eric Moore, a Nigerian media practitioner and entrepreneur Omotayo Omotosho, elaborated on the purpose of their current visit to Nigeria and the immense opportunity it affords Nigerian media companies in terms of scaling in the U.S. media stream and the public. They debunk the insinuation of Newsmax's dominance of the Nigerian news media space and say collaboration with credible organizations like Channels Television will be a win-win for all parties.
So tell those who have no idea what Newsmax is, what it's all about.
Yes. Well, first of all, let me say it is an honor to be here. I am for the first time in Nigeria. I've been to Africa before, but what I was told on this fact-finding tour is that I've never been to Africa until I've come to Nigeria.
Yeah.
First, right? So let me start with that. So it's an honor to be with such esteemed company. And yes, my client Newsmax is one of the fastest growing center-right news organizations in the United States, in over 100 countries globally, as well as 5 continents. And they're in the midst of a global growth strategy. Domestic audience growth, but also taking that message and the Newsmax brand, that center-right message, globally around the world. And Nigeria is one of the markets that hopefully we'll look at with some level of intimacy, some level of cultural immersion, some level of strategic insight, and potentially see if Nigeria could be one of those next markets. But it is a wonderfully, rapidly growing news entity with great subscription, great viewer base in the United States, and we're happy to be in this place to explore opportunities.
Yeah. So I've heard a lot about contents that you're hoping to get from Nigeria, and it does seem like you're looking for human angle stories. So what sort of content are you expecting to get from the country itself? Will it be political? Are you looking for people to tell their narratives, like experiences and stuff, or What exactly you're looking for?
Well, primarily, and I'll start respectfully, the content coming from the U.S. To Nigeria, in theory, is your basic news feed. News is news.
Yeah.
And what the Nigerian partner that we ultimately partner with will have the opportunity to analyze that through a Nigerian lens, through a Nigerian perspective, through a Nigerian cultural process, if you will, right? And so that's part one. Going back the other way, the Nigerian content creators, the Nigerian news, the Nigerian innovators, the Nigerian visionaries that you're hosting and interviewing on your networks will have an opportunity to have their stories told from a Nigerian perspective on the Newsmax network to reach those audiences as well. So that's in theory the exchange that we're looking and the balance that we're looking to achieve.
Yeah, I'd been telling them of the direction of government, having worked with government before, that the sing-song now is concentration on local content. We want to see, yes, it's not a situation where they will bring in Americans to come work here. No. Nigerians are very, very capable in all sectors of our economy. They don't necessarily have to be trained broadcasters. We will look at local content. This is going to provide jobs for more Nigerians. This is going to be a win-win kind of partnership. What excites me most about this possibility, enormous opportunities that it will bring, is the fact that I see a situation where when this partnership starts, you could imagine all the big international seminars, workshops, general assemblies outside the country, that you will see your own head of state, you will see my neighbor's head of state, that of Ghana, that of Cameroon, that of Kenya, attend overseas, but they are hardly featured. They are hardly heard. They're not given the prominence they need to be given just because the event has taken place outside Africa. We must change the narration.
Welcome back to the program. In Sudan, the Sudan Founding Alliance TASIS has announced the formation of a rival administration called the Transitional Peace Government, and it's expected to be led by the Rapid Support Forces commander Mohamed Hamdan Dagalo. This declaration was made during a speech by the official spokesperson of the alliance, Aladdin Nakid, in Nyala, Western Sudan. Mr. Nakid stated the decision was made during last week's meeting of the Alliance's Council to deliberate on several significant agenda items, including the formation of a presidential council and the selection of a prime minister for the transitional peace government. However, the Sudanese government under General Abdel Fattah al-Burhan and the country's army has condemned this move, calling on countries and organizations not to recognize the peace government. The rival government will be overseen by a 15-member presidential council chaired by Dagalo, with Abdelaziz Adam Al-Hilu serving as the council's vice chairman. The official spokesperson, Nakad, declared that Mohamed Al-Taishish would be the prime minister of the transitional peace government. Sudan now has two parallel administrations in the country. The other is the Sudanese army appointed Kamal Idris as prime minister. He was appointed in May and tasked him with forming a transitional government as well. In the meantime, regional directors from the UNHCR and the IOM have visited parts of Sudan to witness widespread devastation and a chronic lack of services for residents as a result of the war in the country. The delegation also met with people returning to safer areas in Sudan, many of whom have been completely cut off from assistance since the war started. These include thousands of internally displaced Sudanese, as well as refugees and asylum seekers hosted in Sudan. The visit followed an earlier mission to the country back in February by the UNDP Regional Director, aimed at developing long-term solutions for internally displaced and refugees to be able to secure livelihoods and basic services.
You see the level of destruction for the past 2 years. This is heartbreaking. It is heartbreaking. It's also personal. I spent 2 years of my life in this generous country, which has shown solidarity to hundreds of thousands of refugees over the years. It is very sad to see this level of destruction. My own office, the representations of UNHCR in Khartoum, as you can see, is destroyed, totally destroyed. Sudan, the Sudanese people, we need support. The level of destruction that I have just witnessed in Khartoum explains to you why we have over 4 million people who have been forced to flee this country and go into neighboring countries. Over 3.3 million Sudanese refugees are hosted in Egypt, in Chad, in Ethiopia, in Eritrea, in South Sudan, in Central African Republic, in Uganda, but also in Libya, as well as in Rwanda. The refugees need support as long as they remain as refugees in these countries. They need cash, they need registration, they need access, and the host communities that are receiving them need support.
Well, 10-time Women's African Cup of Nations champions, the Super Falcons, are back in the country from Morocco. They expected to parade the WAFCON trophy in an open bus across the streets of Abuja en route to the presidential villa. On Saturday, they defeated hosts Morocco 2-3, staging a spirited fight back to win the 2024 Women's Africa Cup of Nations WAFCON for a record-extending 10th time. The team arrived in Abuja at 2:26 p.m. with NFF President Ibrahim Gusau, the coaching crew and players led by the captain of the side, Rashidat Ajibade. They were received at the airport by the Minister of Information, Mohammed Idris, Minister of Culture and Tourism, Hanatu Musawa, and the Minister for Women Affairs, Iman Sulaiman Ibrahim.
When we were 2 goals down, we knew we were not getting some of our acts properly, and we kept encouraging the players not to lose their self-belief and trusting that once we knew the little challenges, difficulties that we had in the game, and considering those 2 goals also, you know, if it's not a team that has self-belief and mental resilience, it will be easy for you to just give up and then think, well, the match is done and dusted. But we kept believing, telling them, encouraging them not to give up. At halftime, we did a lot of talking to them individually and collectively as a group. And eventually, in the second half, they came out, did better, and were able to win the game.
Well, that was just before they, left Morocco back to Nigeria. Away from sports, Africa has to export its finished products. These are the words by the South African President, Cyril Ramaphosa. President Ramaphosa was speaking at the 2025 Liberation Movement Summit held in Kempton Park, Johannesburg. In attendance as part of the Southern African Liberation Movement included Zimbabwe's ZANU-PF, Mozambique's Frelimo, Namibia's SWAPO, Angola's MPLA, and Tanzania's Chama cha Mapinduzi Party. With issues like corruption facing the continent, President Ramaphosa says Africa needs to unite and find urgent solutions to its challenges. He also touched on the issue of migration.
prosper for as long as we send all our raw materials abroad and rely on factories far from our shores for the finished goods and the advanced services that we use. Rather than export rock, sand, and soil, we should be exporting finished products that the world needs. We must process, build, and produce all that we need here on the African continent. This calls on us to invest in infrastructure that extends beyond national boundaries, to build a region that is both physically and economically integrated. As liberation movements from across Southern Africa, we are well placed to drive this important effort. One of the most dangerous narratives today is the weaponization of migration. We must reject xenophobia in all its forms. Migration itself must not be seen as a threat. It is a consequence of underdevelopment, war, global inequality, not a moral failing of those who move in search of hope. As liberation movements, we must advocate for people-centered regional migration policies that affirm dignity, rights, and solidarity as well.
Well, here in Nigeria, the Lagos State Ministry of Health has reiterated its commitment to improving pre-hospital emergency response services through strategic upgrades to the Lagos State Ambulance Service, while also calling on the public to support its operations and reduce avoidable obstacles to life-saving interventions. Permanent Secretary of the Lagos State Ministry of Health, Dr. Olusegun Ogboye, disclosed this during an emotionally charged media engagement in Ikeja, where beneficiaries of ambulance service share life-saving experiences. Dr. Ogboye revealed that LASAM Bus has responded to over 8,900 emergency calls in 2024 and has already handled nearly 3,000 cases in 2025. And the state has recorded extremely low mortality during transit.
Pre-hospital care in Lagos is one that cannot be avoided as a result of the state's growing population of over 20 million. This perhaps has put the Lagos State Ambulance Service on its toes since its establishment in 2001 by President Bola Tinubu during his administration as the governor of Lagos State. Currently, Lagos State has over 20 ambulance points across the state, with the latest recently unveiled in Agege and other areas of the state. Providing insight into the state's service metrics during a press conference at Alausa Ikeja, attended by officials of the State Ambulance Service, the State Permanent Secretary, Dr. Olusegun Ogboye, revealed that the State Ambulance Service has responded to over 900 emergency calls in 2024 and has handled nearly 3,000 cases in 2025.
We received a total of 9,213 calls in 2024, and in 2025 till date, we received 2,967 calls. We attended in 2024 to 8,923 of the 9,213. In January to date, we attended to 2,944 of the 2,967 that we received. Our average ambulance availability in 2024 was 28, which means at any one time we had 28 that were fully functional and able to respond. Now, of our fleet of about 40 ambulances for 2025, we have an average availability of 36. Our mission is to ensure that for everybody, every call, we provide a fully equipped ambulance, and we deploy highly skilled personnel. And we're hoping, our target is to say that regardless of what time of the day, within in less than 30 minutes, we will be at every call that they make to us.
Some citizens who have been saved through the Lasambos emergency care share their experience.
On July 31st, 2024, that Agege bridge, I was trying to go to Lasso to go and pick my daughter. So as I wanted to descend the bridge from nowhere, I don't know, that boy just ran and he wanted to cross that road, and before I know it, he's on the floor. So we now rushed the boys to one hospital at Agege, but they did not do anything. They said, I need an ambulance. Immediately we called them. In fact, before we even open our eyes, they are already dead. I'm so grateful to them.
And as we end our program for today, we give you our Did You Know for the day. Did you know that since 1998, Nigeria have been champions at the Women's Africa Cup of Nations since 1998 till date? 1998 was Nigeria versus Ghana, with Nigeria emerging victorious on home soil. In the year 2000, Nigeria versus South Africa emerging winners at that year's event in South Africa. In 2004, Nigeria beat Cameroon 5-0, and in 2010, Nigeria beat Equatorial Guinea 4-2. Well, that's where we end the program for today. Thank you for watching. I'm Layo Olarinde.